Do you know how to play?
No.
We each draw 7 dominoes. This is the boneyard. The first piece we have to place down has to have the same number of dots on each side. After that, we have to place down a piece with the same number of dots on one of its sides against it. The goal is to end up with 0 dominoes in your hands.
End up with none? That kind of feels like losing.
It's not, I promise.
I hope I know what I'm getting myself into.
Don't worry. It's equally a game of strategy and chance.
I don't have a piece that fits.
Oh, if you don't have a piece that fits, your turn is skipped and I go again.
So what are all those leftover dominoes in the boneyard for?
They're useless.
That's half of the pieces, though. You just lose all of those?
That's just how the game is. Even though you may lose 14 pieces, you can win with just 7.
I feel like it's a half strategy that's getting to me.
You're doing fine, and there's still more game to play.
And yet I already feel like I'm losing.
You feel like you're losing, yet you continue to play.
Like you said, there are still more moves to make. It is still half chance.
You really want to win, huh?
I guess you could call me competitive.
I guess you could call me competitive too.
I guess that makes for an interesting game.
Gosh, could you make this game any more boring?
What?
It's a pretty interesting game.
You guys are just placing down dominoes in complete silence. The clack of the pieces could be heard from a mile away.
Well, what do you suggest we do? I can't help the silence.
Yes, you can start talking again and tell a story or something.
A story?
Actually, I have a story I don't mind telling.
We're supposed to be playing dominoes. This isn't story time.
Well, how about this? Before we each lay our next piece down, we have to tell a story.
Well, I guess I do know one story. My mom used to tell it to me whenever I was little.
Well, my mother used to tell me this story. When the wind was blowing really hard and I would get scared of the thunder and lightning, she would tuck me in and say, "Mr. Glooby was trembling just like you when the wind was blowing." No matter how many times I'd heard this story, I would ask, "Who's Mr. Glooby?" She'd get a twinkle in her eye, and she would rest herself on the foot of my bed and begin the story. Mr. Glooby was a young rabbit. He would stare into the pond and brush his fur so it would be shiny and smooth, and he was very proud of his feet. He would always boast he had the biggest feet in the whole forest. One fall, he finally had to build his burrow, and so he set out to find the perfect place. As he hopped around the forest in search of the perfect place to put his burrow, he came upon the biggest tree in all the forest. It had big, beautiful branches. In the spring they'd be covered with little pink flowers, and in the fall they danced with stunning red leaves. Mr. Glooby vowed this was going to be where he put his burrow.
The problem was, Mr. Serp already lived there. He had built his burrow long ago, and Mr. Glooby wanted to steal it from him. Mr. Serp was older than Mr. Glooby. He had shiny golden fur that didn't need any brushing, and his feet were as large as oars. The muscles rippled under his skin. They hit the ground like hammers, leaving imprints in the dirt. Mr. Glooby scoffed at Mr. Serp. Mr. Glooby thought he was stupid, and that the burrow under the tree belonged to him. "Mr. Serp, this is my burrow," Mr. Glooby said. "You need to leave now." Mr. Serp shook his head at Mr. Glooby and showed him his big, powerful feet. "This is my tree. You can't take it from me." Mr. Glooby, even though he knew Mr. Serp was stronger than him, pressed further. "Well, this side of the tree is mine. You'll have to live on the other side, where the gnarled roots sit and the leaves are so thick you can't see the sun." At that moment, a breeze rolled by, and it whispered into Mr. Serp's long ears, "Do as he says." So Mr. Serp moved to the other side of the tree. What Mr. Glooby didn't know was that the roots formed a table and chair for Mr. Serp, and while the leaves were so thick, as they fell they formed a soft bed for Mr. Serp to sleep on. Mr. Glooby settled into Mr. Serp's old burrow, but the hole was cold and empty. Even though it wasn't what he expected, Mr. Glooby curled up and slept in the burrow. He slept for a whole week. The whole time Mr. Serp was very comfortable and patient for what the wind would deliver him. Then, when Mr. Glooby woke up one morning, he came out of his hole and stretched out under the tree. He started to sing his praises like he often did. "Oh, how beautiful and smart you are, Mr. Glooby," he sang. "You really are the most handsome rabbit in all the woods. And look at your feet. Why, no other rabbit could have feet as big as yours. Mr. Surf was weak and stupid. And as he said those words, the wind started to pick up. You could hear it howling over all the hills, and all the branches of all the trees started to shake. It felt like the ground itself was shaking. Then the dark clouds started swirling, and the growl of the thunder started. Mr. Glooby was shivering. He was terrified. I'm weak, he cried. I'm sorry. But the wind knew those were false apologies, and it formed together, mustering all of its strength. Then, with a giant clap of thunder, it smashed into the tree. The big, beautiful tree creaked and then cracked at its trunk, and it toppled over on top of Mr. Glooby and smashed him under its weight. The whole time, Mr. Surf was not afraid. Behind the growls, the wind would gently whisper in his ear, "Don't worry, this is how I deliver justice. Only the evil will be hurt." As the tree hit the ground, its branches shattered and splintered, and with the help of the wind, formed together into a strong house for Mr. Surf. Even with the wind still whipping around it, this house did not budge. The wind calmed down and warmed, simply providing a gentle breeze again. Mr. Surf smiled and moved into his new home, where he was never disturbed again, and everything stayed in peace for the rest of the time in that woods. So my mother would tell me to never worry about the wind, because it only hurts those who are bad, and I shouldn't shiver unless I was like Mr. Glooby. It always had a way of calming me down.
And that's my story. I guess it's my turn.
Well, I guess that means it's my turn. My story's not nearly as creative, but it actually happened to me.
When I was little, my mom and dad were farmers. They would grow all of our food, and one day a new man moved next door. When spring was approaching, my parents were busy breaking up the soil and starting their garden.
There's a fine skill when it comes to trimming grass.
The new farmer said,
I really feel like working on the soil right now.
When the summer came, my mother worked hard to plant all the vegetables she wanted and worked while sweating in the hot, hot sun.
You're gonna make a fine plant one day, youngster. You're gonna grow big and tall, my friend. I believe in you. You smell nice. I don't like working in this hot, hot sun.
The farmer across from us looked outside and said,
No. No, nah.
He didn't want to work in the hot sun, and he planted his few seeds late in the season. He kept saying,
Someone else will help me out.
Finally, when fall came, my mother went and picked all of her harvest, enjoying the bounty of her hard work.
Well, my sweet cherry pie. Oh my God, look at this beautiful bounty. Why, I've got food for days. I think I found me an orange, or maybe a lemon. I ain't quite sure these, I was illiterate. Can you see me? I'm right here.
Meanwhile, our neighbor,
I grew weed.
we were snug in our house when the winter came, and had enough farm fresh food stored and preserved to last us all through that cold, cold time. And can you believe that that farmer across the street just dropped dead?
Having shot. I'm starving. I wonder if I could eat this oleander. Grandma's got consumption or tuberculosis. Whatever causes this.
Well, that or he moved away.
That's it. I got my Daryl. My 3 hard candies and my ACT book. I ain't leaving nowhere without it. I'm leaving. Well, I packed my bags.
And that's my story. Looks like we each only have 2 dominoes left. This game's getting pretty intense.
Yeah, let's be done with the story and the theatrics and finish with this game.
I was never one for theatrics anyways.
I always like the... I guess we're digressing again.
Right, sorry.
It's my turn now.
I don't have any pieces that fit.
Really?
Game's over there?
Yeah, it's over.
Well, I guess that means I lost.
And I won. Did I win anything?